What's good, you guys? Zack, Dowdy here, and I'm super excited for today's video. We're going to be building a DIY quarter pipe wall ride installable. That's going to be the most exciting part about today's video, is that we're going to build this at home and then we can bring it anywhere and install it on any spot. We're going to make all this happen for under $50. Let's do it. Alright, the first thing we're going to need for today's project is wood. And since we're building on a budget, I actually did a little scavenger hunt yesterday through some warehouses and picked up some wood that was next to some trash that was about to be thrown away. One of the cool things that I did find on this scavenger hunt is some rebar. Well, not really rebar, but some metal cages that I can use as a rebar substitute. I'm definitely going to use rebar as well, but it's nice to utilize these little things that you can find for free. Essentially, we're going to need some 2x4s. So if we had two 2x4s, that's going to be enough. I did find some scraps, not 2x4s, but they're going to be strong enough to do the job. 2 cardboard slabs would be good, like some 4x4 pre-cuts would be awesome if you could find those. 1 finishing plywood or finishing board is really good too. Basically, you want something that could bend and flex really easy into the frame that is also smooth. You want rebar as well. You're definitely going to need rebar for this project, otherwise you're just going to fall apart. And you're going to need some rebar wire to essentially tie all the rebar together. Lastly, you're just going to need 4 bags of high strength Quikrete. I grabbed the high strength concrete mix 60-pound bags. Normally I grab the 90-pound bags, but since today's project we're going to be moving and doing a lot of stuff, I made it a little bit easier on my arms. I was on the phone with my buddy Soup. He builds tons of skate parks. He's much more professional and elite and experienced person than I am, and he told me that 2 feet is basically the max height or the lowest you can go without scraping a board, which is kind of an interesting fact. Since we're going to do 3-foot transitions, we're going to have a nice tight transition, but just enough room where you couldn't still go straight up and down. Pit fakie, rock fakie, still going to be possible. Now, I have seen tons of different techniques for measuring transitions, and I think no matter what is a little bit confusing, but to make it really simple for you, basically I'm going to measure 3 feet up because that's how tall I want the ramp. I'm going to screw in a piece of wood at 3 feet, and then I'm going to use that as my compass to draw my transition. Essentially what we're doing here is building the shape and the outline of the wall ride, the quarter pipe, and this will vary depending on where you plan to implement the spot. Alright, now that we got a nice traced outline, traced transition, I'm going to cut it out, and everything goes smoothly. I can just cut out a second piece tracing that original one, and we can use this same piece of wood. So all of the side forms are going to be made with this, well, it's actually 2 different pieces of wood that I'm putting together. Now, the idea of today's project is to make it a free fill quarter pipe wall ride, meaning there's no filler underneath it. It's just the transition, which makes it a lot lighter, easier to move around, and you can install it on a spot. So that is going to be kind of the hard part today, and I've never done anything like this, but I'm really excited to dive into it. Oh yeah, something important to add is, since we want 3 inches of concrete, essentially, we're going to drill everything inset 3 inches. So basically imagine you're building a regular quarter pipe, but you indent everything 3 inches, because on top of that is going to be the concrete, essentially the form that we're building. Alright, so now you can already start seeing the basic shape of the quarter pipe wall ride starting to form. Really cool, really exciting. So now we're going to do the same thing that I just did on the bottom to create a nice solid step, and basically just adding some 2x4s, going to keep going up until it's time to add that top coat, the top plywood, the butter coat as we call it. Alright, so once you have all your support beams on there, it's pretty much ready to go to put the top masonite plywood, not the masonite, the plywood right on top. And then you'll really start seeing the shape form, where normally you can just ride this quarter pipe as is at this point. You'll see that it's all indented, so it'll be pretty much ready to put the concrete in. But first we're gonna do rebar. So let's nail that top sheet on. That's it. That's pretty much our wood form. Now we're gonna get onto the rebar, but essentially we're ready to go as far as the wood form part goes. So the next step is to add rebar. We don't want this bad boy cracking or falling apart since it's freeform. So the rebar is essentially supposed to act as a cage to hold all your concrete in. It's sort of the structure to adhere to in a way, and then it doesn't fall apart as easily. So I've never done rebar before, I've never used rebar, but I'm gonna try to bend it and basically make a little cage for the concrete to go in. You don't wanna add too much of a mesh because then it's a barrier for the concrete and the lime doesn't go down. So essentially you want the concrete to grab onto the rebar. You don't want it to be a layer in between the concrete. So basically, after I cut the rebar, I had to bend 2 different rebar pieces. Essentially, like I said before, I was trying to frame out a cage. So I made 2 pieces that are more bent and have transition. I think there's a lot of expensive tools on how to bend and flex rebar, but really, you can just do this. I've never done rebar in my life, never tied it down or anything like that, so that just goes to show to prove you could build this as well. You could build anything if you put your mind to it. I messed up a few times by just going around, and I looked at it and I was like, this is not right. So I just took a step back and looked up some things and just did it right. So I guess to add to this little section in the video is to take your time, be patient when you're building something like this, especially if you don't know what you're doing. It's alright, because until we get to the concrete, we're really not in a rush. Now, I could have done 3 pieces on the transition portion of rebar, but at the same time, we're only about 2.5 feet wide on this, so I think 2 pieces of rebar is going to be okay, because we are going to use the other chicken wire that I found when we did our little scavenger hunt, which is actually proven to be really useful. That's pretty much it. Our form is done. We're ready to pour the concrete. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm just going to clean some things up so that when we're pouring the concrete, it's just less hectic, less stressful. That's one thing I know I keep saying, is just clean up, take your time, don't rush through the process. Concrete is next. Something else that I was trying to do when I was tying the rebar is basically just to make sure that the rebar is going to be in the middle of the transition, because you don't want it sitting in the very back or in the very front, because if it's sitting in the very front where you're actually going to be smoothing out, then it's going to leak into your concrete. I'm also trying to do is add concrete underneath the rebar. I just had some excess concrete so that the rebar is not sitting right in the back like I was saying before. We kind of want it sitting in the middle, so don't let it sit flush onto the wood. What I've done is just had 2 rocks in the front up here, trying to give it some leverage. And then down on the bottom, sort of just letting it sit on the wood, because at that point, there's very thin amount of concrete, so it's gonna be nice and safe, I think. Again, this is trial and error, we'll see. Now basically, it's time to mix the concrete. So now we're basically going to shimmy this 2x4 across the form, and we're going to let all the excess concrete fall off the side. All right, now that we got all the concrete leveled out, it's time for our wood float. And basically, you could get much better floats than this, but I'm using this because I'm on a budget, as always. And basically, what this wood float is going to do is push all the rocks to the bottom and bring all the smooth surface to the top. Okay, now that we got a nice smooth surface of concrete, final trowel finish is just going to be your metal float, just going across it. It'd be nice if I had a radius float. I'm going to get one of those in the future from Soup. All right, we got the third step on there, the final trowel finish, the metal float. We're all done. Basically from here, it's just a waiting game. I'm gonna watch it, make sure it doesn't crack because this is really sunny today. Well, alright guys, it's been about 2 days and it's time to pull out our quarter pipe / wall ride out of the form today. I'm really excited and I'm kind of nervous. Something I was thinking about yesterday is like, man, how am I going to do this all by myself? It'd be really nice if I had like 4 homies to come over and pull it out, but I'm just going to kind of shimmy something together. I'll figure it out. I can do this. This is D.I.Y. And something I did notice is that the concrete is separating from the form really quickly. Like even hours after I had already set, I already kind of started seeing it. So that is a good thing. I think it's starting to separate. I'm just really curious how it's going to work out. I've never done this before. So let's pull the quarter pipe out of its form. The glory. This is like I feel like a kid in a candy shop right now. I'm hyped. It came out pretty good. What do you think, Ruby? It came out pretty good? Yeah, it came out so good, Dad. Can't wait to backside Smith that bad boy. Woo-wee. I'm really hyped, honestly. Like, this is cool. I've never done a quarter pipe free fill, or I've just never done anything like this before, so super excited. Now you guys got some information on how to do it yourself. Hopefully this sparks you to go out there and build an installable quarter pipe or wall ride, or go out there and build anything and just make it happen for yourself. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you're not already. Comment below what's the next skate spots I should build, or maybe where should we bring this thing and install it? Like in the middle of the desert, the forest? Let me know. See you guys in the next one. Mash.